The Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning is going to be a lot of hearing of slokas that don't have purports until we come to the purport, which is actually, we're going to end this chapter, which is 22, and head into 23. I think that's the process. So, and we're going to be going from this beautiful Vrindavan Leela into the battlefield Leela. So, but I'll say something about that when we start. So, I got this right. I'm going to start from this text 33, and we won't be reading the Sanskrit to all of these, but we will be reading the translations. And then when we get up to this, I think it's text 21 in the next chapter, then we get this little purport, and we'll have, it's actually text 20 and 21 combined. So, see if we can get all this done in the allotted time. So text 33. My dear King Parikshit, your father, Abhimanyu, was born from the womb of Subhadra as the son of Arjuna. He was the conqueror of all the Ataratos, those who could fight with 1,000 charioteers. From him, by the womb of Uttara, the daughter of Viradraja, you were born. Text 34. After the Kuru dynasty was annihilated in the battle of Kurukshetra, you also were brought about to be destroyed by the Brahmastra atomic weapon released by the son of Dronacharya. But by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, you were saved from death. My dear King, your 4 sons, Janamajaya, Shrutasena, Bhimasena, and Ugrasena, are all very powerful. Janamajaya is the eldest. 36. Because of your death by the Takshaka snake, your son Janamajaya will be very angry and will perform a sacrifice to kill all the snakes in the world. 37. After conquering throughout the world and after accepting Tura, the son of Kalasha, as his priest, Janamajaya will perform Ashwamedha Yagyas, for which he will be known as Turaga Medasat. 38. The son of Janamajaya, known as Satanika, will learn from Yajnavalkya the 3 Vedas and the art of performing ritualistic ceremonies. He will also learn the military art from Kripacharya and the transcendental science from the sage Sanaka. Just a small comment here. He's mentioned you will learn the military art and you will learn the transcendental science. So in the Vedas, there are different divisions of knowledge. And one of the divisions is ritualistic or functional activities. And they're not considered transcendental. They're knowledge, but without transcendence. So that includes like this military art. So therefore he distinguishes. You will learn military art from Kripacharya and the transcendental science. So then the transcendental knowledge, that is the knowledge which connects you from Krishna to Krishna. And for that science, he's going to learn from Sanaka. 39. The son of Satanika will be Sahasranika, and from him will come the son named Ashwamedha. From Ashwamedha will come Asima Krishna, and his son will be Nima Chakra. 40. When the town of Hastinapur, New Delhi, is inundated by the river Nemichakra, when is inundated by the river, Nemichakra will live in the place known as Kosambi. His son will be celebrated as Chitraratha, and the son of Chitraratha will be Suchiratha. 41. From Suchiratha will come the son named Vristiman, and his son Shusena will be the emperor of the entire world. The son of Susena will be Sunitha, and his son will be Nirchaksu, and from Nirchaksu will come a son named Sukhinala. We're getting a real family tree. Family tree. The dynasty after dynasty after dynasty. The roots of the tree. The son of Sukhinala will be Pariplava, and his son will be Shunaya. From Shunaya will come a son named Madhavi. From Madhavi, Nirpanjaya. From Nirpanjaya, Durva. And from Durva, Timi. From Timi will come Bhadrarata. From Bhadrarata, Sudasa. And from Sudasa, Satanika. From Satanika will come Durdamana. And from him will come a son named Mahinara. 44 and 45. The son of Mahinara will be Dandapani, and his son will be Nimi, from whom King Shemaka will be born. I have now described to you the moon god's dynasty, the Chandra dynasty, which is the source of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, and is worshipped by demigods and great saints. Shri Radha Gokunanda ki jai, Gaurnitai ki jai. Shri Ramchandra, Lakshman, Hanuman, Sita Maharani ki jai. I have now described to you the moon god's dynasty, which is the source of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and is worshipped by the demigods and great saints. In this Kali Yuga, Shemaka will be the last monarch. Now I shall describe to you the future of the Magha dynasty. Please listen. Then 46 through 48. Sahadev, the son of Jarasandha, will have a son named Majari. And from Majari will come Shutashrava. And from Shutashrava, Yutayu. And from Yutayu, Niramitra. The son of Niramitra will be Sunak Shatra. And from Sunak Shatra will come Brihat Sena. And from Brihat Sena, Karmajit. The son of Karmajit will be Sutanjaya. The son of Sutanjaya will be Vipra, and his son will be Suchi. The son of Suchi will be Shema, and the son of Shema will be Suvrata, and the son of Suvrata will be Dharma Sutra. From Dharma Sutra will come Shama, and from Shama, Dumyat Sena, from Dumyat Sena, Sumati, and from Sumati, Subala. 49. From Subala will come Sunita, and from Sunita, Satyajit, and from Satyajit, Vishwajit, and from Vishwajit, Ripunjaya. From all of these personalities will belong to the dynasty of Bhadrarata, which will rule the world for 1,000 years. Purport. This is the history of a monarchy that began with Jarasandha and continued for 1,000 years as the above-mentioned kings appear on the surface of the globe. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Descendants of Ajamida. And then we get to chapter 23. There's an intro and then some more purports, some more translations without purports. In this 23rd chapter, and I'm going to read a little bit quickly, I hope you don't mind. In the 23rd chapter, the dynasties of Anu, Duryu, Turvasu, and Yadu, as well as the story of Jayamaga, are described. The sons of Yati's fourth son, Anu, were Shabanara, Chakshu, and Pareshnu. Of these three, the sons and grandsons of Shabhanara were in succession Kalvanara, Shanjaya, Janmajaya, Mahasala, and Mahamana. The sons of Mahamana were Usanara and Tatikshu. Usanara had four sons named Sibi, Vara, Krimi, and Daksha. Sibi also had four sons, Rusadrath, who begat a son named Homa. From Homa came Sutapa, and from Sutapa Bali. In this way the dynasty continued. Begotten by dear Gamatma in the womb of his wife Bali were Agni, Vanga, Kalinga, Suma, Pundra, and Odra, all who became kings. From Anga came Kalapana, whose dynasty included Divirata, Dharmarata, Chitrarata, also called Romapad, one after the other. Maharaj Dasarath gave in charity one of his daughters by the name of Shanta to his friend Romapad, because Romapad had no sons. Romapad accepted Shanta as his daughter, and the great sage Rishringa married her. By the mercy of Rishringa, Romapada had a son named Chaturanga. The son of Chaturanga was Pritulaksha, who had 3 sons, Badrata, Brihat Karma, and Brihad Banu. From Badrata came a son named Bradmana, whose sons and grandsons in succession were Jayadrata, Vijay, Dhriti, Dritavrata, Satkarma, and Adarata. Adarata accepted the son rejected by Kunti, namely Karna, and Karna's son was Vrishasena. The sons of Yati's 3rd son, Druhu, were Babru, whose son and grandsons were Setu, Arabhadra, Gandhara, Dharma, Drita, Durmara, and Pracheta. The sons of Yati's 2nd son, Turvasu, was Vani, whose seminal dynasty included Bharga, Banuman, Tribanu, Karandama, and Maruta. The childless Maruta accepted Dushmanta, who belonged to the Pru dynasty, as his adopted son. Maharaj Dushmanta was anxious to have his kingdom returned, and so he went back to the Puru Vamsha. Of the 4 sons of Yadu, Sahasrajit was the eldest. The son of Sahasrajit was named Satijit, and he had 3 sons, of whom were Hayaya, of whom one was Hahaya. The sons and grandsons of the dynasty of Hahaya were Dharma, Netra, Kunti, Sohanji, Mahishman, Bhadraksena, Danaka, Kritavirya, Arjuna, Jayadwaj, Talajanga, and Vitihotra. The son of Vitihota was Madhu, whose eldest son was Vrishni. Because of Yadu, Madhu, and Vrishni, their dynasties were known as Yadava, Madhava, and Vrishni. Another son of Yadu was Krosta, and from him came Vrinnavan, Vijinavan, Swahita, Visadgu, Chitaratra, Sashabindu, Purushravu, Dharma, Usana, and Ruchaka. Ruchaka had 5 sons, one of whom was known as Jayamaga. Jayamaga was sonless, but by the mercy of the demigods, his childless wife gave birth to a son named Vaidarbha. And thus ends the introduction, and then... Yes, we can do this. You're making a practical suggestion, and I'll follow because I'm just a guest here. But recently I heard something that really gave me a pause to think about how we respond to situations like this. So during the TOV presentation in New Vrindavan, after the presentation, I asked Jananivas, would he just say some little memory or some incident, something that he remembered from his time with Srila Prabhupada. And he related an incident that occurred in Mayapur that gave me pause to think how we deal with situations like this, and in fact the purports and everything else related to the Bhagavatam and all the books that were kindly translated and then highlighted by purports by Srila Prabhupada. So you've probably heard there's a couple stories that we call the banging door stories, where Prabhupada was disturbed by these banging doors. So this is another one. This happened in Mayapur. And Prabhupada commented, how disturbing this banging door was. It was in the night. And we know that Srila Prabhupada did his translations during the night. And he said, sometimes I have to wait for 3 days for the right word to come. I'm waiting 3 days just to get the right word. so that I can properly represent the disciplic succession. So each one of these words that Prabhupada has kindly translated has not just been a, look it up in the dictionary and put it down, but he's so carefully and thoughtfully and deeply meditative on the words that he has assigned to his books, that sometimes we think maybe the English could be better. But we might want to remember what Prabhupada said. Anyways, on this 21, and is it 21? No. Okay, so we start with 2021. That's the ones we read? Is that it? Yeah.
If you want to go through the list, you can.
No, but we should be aware. That's my point. We should be aware, Otherwise, we can be kind of casual sometimes without intention. But, we should be aware. That being said, too, because of the time element, not that I have a whole lot to say, but I'll just read the Sanskrit, and if you don't mind, I'll just read it and then continue, if that's okay with you. Okay? Because it's already like 20 after, so. The translation here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the super soul in the hearts of all living entities, descended in his original form as a human being in the dynasty or family of Yadu. Yadu had 4 sons named Sahasrajit, Prusta, Nala, and Ripu. Of these 4, the eldest Sahasrajit had a son named Satyajit, who had 3 sons named Mahahaya, Renuhaya, and Haihaya. Srila Prabhupada's purport, which is very interesting because he doesn't mention any of these persons directly. As confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11, Vedanti tattvata vidas tattvam yaganamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabjyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. The majority of transcendentalists understand only the impersonal Brahman, or localized Paramatma, where the personality of Godhead is very difficult to understand. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7:3, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschiditati siddhaye tattam api siddhantam kaschin mam veti tattvata. Out of many of thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. The yogis and jnanis, that is, the mystic yogis and the impersonalists, can understand the absolute truth as impersonal or localized. But although such realized souls are above ordinary human beings, they cannot understand how the supreme absolute truth can be a person. Therefore it is said that out of many siddhas, the souls who have already realized the absolute truth, one may understand Krishna, who perfectly resembles a human being, Narakriti. This human form was explained by Krishna himself after he manifested the Virat Rupa. The Virat Rupa is not the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is Dvibhuja Shama Sundara, Murlidhar, the Lord with 2 hands playing a flute, Yam Sham Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam. The Lord's forms are proof of his inconceivable qualities. Although the Lord maintains innumerable universes within the period of his breath, he is dressed with a form exactly like that of a human being. This does not mean, however, that he is a human being. This is his original form. But because he looks like a human being, those with a poor fund of knowledge consider him an ordinary man. The Lord says, Avagyananti mamudha manushyam tanumasritam param bhavanarjananto mambuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Bhagavad Gita 9:11. But by the Lord's Param Bhavan, our transcendental nature, He is the all-pervading Paramatma living in the core of the hearts of all living entities, yet He looks like a human being. Mayavada philosophy says that the Lord is originally impersonal, but assumes a human form and many other forms when He descends. That's the Mayavadi version. Actually, here's our version. Actually, however, He is originally like a human being, and the impersonal Brahman consists of the rays of His body. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadananda koti. So, Om Agyantamrandasya Ganano Sakalaya Chakshun Migvitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachide Satarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So like I said, we've come from Vrindavan to the battlefield. But I just read this last night because I only arrived yesterday. So late last night I had time to read this. What can I say about all of this? But I remembered some notes I had taken when confronted one other time with some battlefield verses. And it talks about kingdoms and what have you. So I want to refer to those. But in those notes, I had come across a very nice lesson. Of course, everything Prabhupada teaches us is a lesson. He's not going to speak something that's not going to assist us in advancing in Krishna consciousness. But here Prabhupada asks, sometimes people, he says it, sometimes people will ask that we are meant to chant Hare Krishna. So what spiritual progress, here's the part that connects. So what spiritual progress do we make by talking about these fighters? These kings, these kshatriyas, So Prabhupada answers that. The thing is that Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, whenever there is a connection with Krishna, that also becomes Krishna. So the example he gives of the fire, and you put the iron rod in the fire, and then the iron rod becomes like fire. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness, that the thing that is, whenever there is a connection with Krishna, then that thing also becomes Krishna. So he continues, this is a subtle form of philosophical understanding, and therefore the Sahajiyas do not read Bhagavad Gita. They directly jump in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, Krishna's Rasa Leela, as if Krishna is connected with only the Rasa Leela and not with this Leela, meaning Bhagavad Gita. So they make this distinction that Krishna is fighting. They make that distinction, but then Prabhupada explains Krishna's fighting and the Rasa Leela are all the same because Krishna is in the center. So Krishna being the center, whatever is in connection with Krishna also becomes Krishna. This is the idea. So, nice instruction, to consider that Prabhupada says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami instructs that also the same instruction. While propagating Krishna consciousness, we have to deal with money or persons who are not Krishna conscious. But because we are doing it for Krishna, there is a relationship with Krishna, Krishna Sambandha. So, some of you might remember this book that was put out where Prabhupada was giving a series of philosophical responses to different philosophers. And Shamsundar Haibagriva would present different philosophers and then their philosophy, and then Prabhupada would, respond. So this is a conversation with Hayagriva, and he is speaking about a person, Thomas Hobbes. So he says this person, Thomas Hobbes, he had a very famous work. It was called Leviathan. So maybe some of you know this word, just the word Leviathan, which initially it was referred to like a great sea monster who was defeated by Yahweh in the Judaic scriptures. But then the word, became used to mean anything very large or very formidable. So that was Leviathan. The great sea monster was a Leviathan. It was so huge. And anything that's very formidable was Leviathan. So then this person, Hobbes, he used the word Leviathan to refer to a ruling body or a monarch of a state. And he called this Leviathan a mortal god who was under the immortal God. So the ruler was referred to the Leviathan. He was the mortal god and the immortal God, of course, but he didn't name Krishna. He just said the immortal God. And then he further said that this Leviathan or king or monarch would rule the government above law, because Hobbes felt that the Leviathan or the ruler need not obey the law. So then he asked a question to Prabhupada that according to the Vedic conception, is the king or the monarch above the law? So that's the question. And Prabhupada's answer says, no, the king is under the law. The king, as we understand from Bhagavad Gita, instructed the law to the sun god. So we just heard all about the Chandravamsi, but Krishna instructed to the Suryavamsi, to the sun god. And he means the king, he followed the laws. The Surya followed the laws. Therefore, he is the king to the common man. He is supreme. The king is supposed to be the representative of God in the state. So this above the law means because the king is perfect by abiding the laws of Krishna. So he can't therefore be subjected to subordinate laws because he's following the laws of Krishna. So in that way, he is above the law, but not above the laws of Krishna. And his perfection is only there inasmuch as he follows Krishna's order. So therefore, Prabhupada explained the monarchy, the law, the king's order is final in this regards. Then he gives an example, just like king's mercy. Even if one is condemned to death, if the king's mercy is there, then he can be excused. He can be free. Nobody can check it. But then Prabhupada asks the question, but why is that? Here's the law says this, the king goes over it. But why? Because the king is representative of Krishna. Imam Vishvate Yoginam Proktavan Aham Avayam. Bhagavad Gita, everybody knows, 411. So first of all, he said the laws of the Bhagavad Gita, which is so important for human civilization. And he spoke these laws millions of years ago. He said at least 40 million years ago. And he's spoken to the sun god, and the sun god gave it to his son Manu, and Manu to his son Iksakshu, and Iksakshu inherited from Manu. So in this way, the absolute law is coming by disciplic succession. And he mentioned that formerly even India was in a monarchy, and they received the law of God by disciplic succession, and then they would execute. So therefore, whatever the king decides, if he's following in disciplic succession laws of God, then it's final. And that way he can't be subjected to the ordinary law. And that way there is a perfection of the monarchy. So then Hierogryphus said, well, Hobbes compares man to a machine ultimately made by God. We also compare this body to a machine. Yeah. But Hobbes said he does not see this machine as controlled directly by God, but by the Leviathan, by the king or the ruler. So this philosopher was getting the point that there was a immortal God, but he wasn't connecting the immortal God to the mortal God. And he thought the mortal God of the king had the power over all the persons. But Prabhupada straightened that out. No, God is situated in everyone's heart. And he's seeing every minute action of the soul. So what he's desiring, how he's manipulating the machine, meaning this body. And then, he said, this is explained in Bhagavad Gita that this Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati. So specifically it's indicated that God is situated in the heart of the living being, and he's observing what the living being is desiring. Then according to the desire of the living being, God is so kind, he's supplying a particular machine, so our body, so that our desires can be fulfilled. So as long as the living, and then Prabhupada said this is acting like you want to eat like a pig, then you get hog's body. You want to eat flesh, you get the tiger's body, etc. And you want another body, demigod's body, you can get it. And he goes, this is God's mercy. But as long as the individual wants to enjoy in the material world, according to his eagerness to enjoy in one way or the other, he gets the facility, a particular body. And this is body, we all know, this is material. So many species of life, 8,400,000 of species of life. And the Lord is awarding each one of those according to their desire or the activities that they have performed in a particular body. So, Prabhupada comments that actually, because God is a friend, when the living entity is prepared to understand God, then he will be happy. And what is God saying? He's saying, you give up this nonsense plan, you just surrender to me. You give up this false dharma. In other words, activities that are disconnected or unrelated to Krishna. Give them up. That's what he's telling us to give up. And you surrender to me. So then when the living entity does that, he's perfect. Otherwise, we go on with our disconnected desires, and Krishna will fulfill, okay, get this body, get that body. And Prabhupada says, actually, there is two processes. Either you go up or you go down. So going up means the higher species of life. Going down, you get the lower species of life. Just like the demigod Brahma, his one day is calculated. It's like impossible for us to, we can parrot it. Oh, it means this, but, what kind of understanding can we have of such a lifetime? So every opportunity is given by God because he's the supreme controller, But, as long as we go on proposing this way, but we do that way, like one time one devotee said to Prabhupada, oh, I'm just your puppet. Prabhupada said, yes, you're my puppet. I want you to dance this way, but you're dancing that way. So in the same way, we are, having our little independent desires, and Krishna, okay. But actually, Krishna is saying, but if you really want to be happy, surrender unto me. So then, Hayagriva then continues, said, well, Hobbes says that this warfare is perpetual and the struggle for existence goes on, and therefore Leviathan, this mortal God, is necessary. And he believes it's the divine right of kings as God's representative, God's lieutenant, that he has his sovereignty under God. then Prabhupada says that this is the perfection of monarchy, God. The king is called Nirpadeva, Naradeva. Although he's in a human body, he's God, representative of. And Hierogryphus said, he also said this could not only be an individual, but it could be a group of individuals. And Prabhupada agrees. He goes, yes, groups of individuals can remain provided they're all devotees. But if the group of individuals, if they're all rogues and rascals, they can't represent God. They can't be his representative. So either singular or plural, if all of them are representative of God by abiding by the laws, and then Prabhupada said laws means actual dharma, tu, sakshad, bhagavat pranitam. From this is 6th canto, that this is actual, Krishna says, this is actual religion or law. And if we manufacture in our own ways without reference to God's program, so then this will be useless, will be a failure. So even when it's situated in the mode of goodness, it's preferable than the mode of ignorance. But even there, no matter how elevated one is materially, one can't ascertain what is the real religious principle. So, example, like when the Vishnu Duttas challenged the Yamadutas, a big fight over Ajamil, they're challenging. The Vishnu Duttas asked Yamadutas, well, you described the principles of religion. And the Yamadutas replied, well, Veda pranahiti dharmas. So they were saying the religious principles are enacted in the Vedic literature. And then Prabhupada in his purport, he explains, they didn't know that Vedic literature contains ritualistic ceremonies that are not transcendental, but are meant to keep peace and order among materialistic people in the material world. That the real religious principles are above the 3 modes. In other words, nisraguna, transcendental. And the Gita describes persons that are attached to, when people become attached to the rituals, but not attached to Krishna, then they're described as the Vedavata Rata Partha Nanyad, Ashtiti Vadina. So nothing beyond Vedic rituals. That these rituals are intended to gradually elevate one to transcendental platform by knowing Krishna. But when you're just in these rituals that are under the material modes, mode of goodness, but without the connection to Krishna, then one stays in this platform, material platform. So only when you begin connecting to Krishna, so vedascha saviraham veda veda, that this principle only can one understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are his representatives. So, and Prabhupada explains that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead are his representatives, so the Guru, the devotees, or the king or the monarch as representatives, they can impart this knowledge of Krishna. But those who are disconnected from Krishna and only connected to these rituals, they are not able to help the living entity transcend. So, and Prabhupada said, Vena, everything depends on the king accepting the absolute instruction of God. In the Vedic civilization, the king was absolutely following the regulations given by God, and it was confirmed by the saintly persons. So it wasn't that he had this almighty power that he used without discretion. That actually, Prabhupada said, not executed. It was executed through the confirmation of the saintly persons, the sages. It wasn't whimsically. And then Prabhupada said there was an advisory board. So I thought it was interesting that Prabhupada is, we nowadays talk about having advisory boards or advisory councils. And Prabhupada is confirming this. Yeah, there was an advisory board at the monarchy. But then he describes the advisories that they were not politicians or diplomats. They were all saintly persons, and they were very well versed in the Vedas. And they used to guide the monarch. So therefore, Prabhupada said, the monarch is the absolute governing body. So the monarch was like the ultimate GBC, absolute governing body. The ministers were helping, but the king was educated by the direct instructions of the Lord. And then again he says, Imam Shastate Yoginam Proktavan. So Vivaswan, the king, was educated by the instructions of the Lord. Then Krishna said, Imam Vishvate Yoginam Proktavan. So then Prabhupada mentions that, okay, Vivaswan, the sun god, but the two tradition Kshatriya families. So what we read today was the Chandra, the Kshatriyas coming from Chandra, the moon god. But Prabhupada comments from the sun god, the Surya Vamsa. So in India, Kshatriyas claim that they're from Surya Vamsa, and Prabhupada said that is a fact because we see that Surya, the sun god, is the original Kshatriya. And then from him came Manu, etc., etc. So Krishna has given the instructions in all fields of activities, and we have to take it practically. But then he says when people are so foolish that they're manufacturing on account of their demoniac tendency, in other words, their disconnection from Krishna, then the heads of the state are degraded, either individually or collectively. So then how can there be any good government? And we see that practically nowadays, without getting into big comments, but we just see what's going on. So if they become perfect according to the instructions of God, everything will be perfect. And these instructions coming to the monarch are being guided by the saintly persons. So then Hayagriva gives the final comment. He says, this Hobbes, he gives a definition of God, that he's a pure, simple, invisible spirit corporal. So corporal means body. Prabhupada says, why? Invisible? When Krishna says, Krishna came. He was visible, and Arjuna was talking with him face to face. So why invisible? So now he's disputing this person. If he likes, this is his, meaning Krishna. If Krishna likes, this is his. It depends on his goodwill. He becomes visible to a competent, perfect person. He is visible. He's just like Arjuna was talking. Not only visible, he was face to face. He was asking questions and Krishna was answering. So one has to become qualified, just like Arjuna. And then he'll see Krishna, our God, and he will talk to him. And he'll get direct instruction. There's no difficulty, Prabhupada says. So if he's not visible to the imperfect, he is not visible to the imperfect person. But he's visible to the perfect person. But he is not invisible, In other words, Krishna is a person, supreme personality of Godhead. So unless we see everything around related to Krishna, we'll not be able to properly utilize Krishna's resources that he's given, to use for his services. So going further in that, Prabhupada is confirming Rupa Goswami's statement that everything has got connection with Krishna because ultimately everything is Krishna's energy. And the material world is also a manifestation of Krishna's energy. So the material world means that the gross and subtle elements, the earth, air, fire, water, sky, mind, intelligent, false ego. Krishna explains that these material elements are separated, but they are my energy, So when we become covered by the material energy, we don't see Krishna. So this is our position. We get, covered by the clouds, the moha, the clouds, the illusion. So Prabhupada says we have to use our intelligence. Krishna gives us the intelligence to use it. The Mayavadis say everything is Maya. That the world is false. Only Brahman is real. The Prabhupada said, why should this world be false if everything is coming from reality? Krishna is saying all these separated energies, but they're all coming from me. So why should the world be false if it's coming from Krishna? So we don't agree with them. We don't accept that this world is false. We say, no, it's a temporary manifestation, but it's not false. Prabhupada says, why should it be false? So we're living in this house. If some rascal says it's false, why false? We're utilizing this house. I mean, Krishna's the temple. We're utilizing this microphone. We're utilizing, he mentioned sixtophone. So why is it false? This is sambandha, a relationship with Krishna. Anything material is also one of Krishna's energies. Therefore, there is a direct relationship with Krishna. And if Krishna is reality, why should his energy be false? So we have to know how to use it. So in the battlefield, Krishna was present. Many soldiers, commanders and chiefs were present. Some were standing on their chariots, some were on the ground. But everything was Krishna's energy. And when we remember that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy, then there's no question of materialism. But when we make that Krishna disconnect, and we want to start, not only do we disconnect from Krishna, but we start taking it for ourselves, then comes the big problem. But otherwise, when we see everything as a manifestation of Krishna's energy, there's no question of materialism. It's all spiritual energy. So this Nirbandha Krishna Samande, we have to use everything for Krishna. Use it for Krishna. He gave an example, like if you want to grow paddy, the rice in the field, you have to first till all the weeds, get rid of the weeds, destroy the unwanted weeds, and then you can sow the seeds and they'll come out nicely. So then Prabhupada was using, this is what was happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that they were like taking away these unwanted elements. Krishna said, I come, I'll destroy the miscreants. Why? So that, there can be the manifestation of real Dharma, and the devotees can bring Krishna consciousness. So, but still Prabhupada said, so both destruction and destruction happen by Krishna's energies. You cannot accept one thing and then give up the other side. We have to understand both sides, that they are working manifestations of Krishna's energy. Now this is, a nice way to look at and understand when we start reading all these names, all these different persons. So then Prabhupada said, we should not neglect the names of the warriors. Krishna gathered all the world's demoniac powers in the battlefield of Kurukshetra and arranged to kill them. That was his plan. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. We should not be attached to things as they are. But we should try to understand that there is some relation with Krishna. And as soon as there is a relation with Krishna, we properly utilize it. And this is Krishna consciousness. Because everything can be utilized in Krishna's service. He said, Krishna is not stereotyped, stagnant block. He is a dynamic force. Therefore, everything can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. Simply one has to learn this art under the proper guidance, and then there'll be perfect Krishna consciousness. So therefore, these kings, the monarchy, they were guided by the Brahmins, by the sages, by the rishis, and in that way they were, ruling their kingdom. So when we go through these parts of the Bhagavatam, like we just went through, we can remember these nice instructions coming from Srila Prabhupada, and that we shouldn't neglect the names of the warriors. Yeah. And that this fighting and the swinging, they are both the same. It's a little lesson. So, does anybody have any questions? You want to?